Herm Edwards said, "Your attitude is your best friend and your worst enemy." Welcome to McBain Moments. Alright, if you're new to the channel, welcome to the Manor. Make sure you take a moment and subscribe down below. We are on the road to 13 million subscribers, one subscription at a time, so make sure you subscribe. Attitude. There are so many quotes that I could pull on attitude because it is the center of all of the things you do. Herm is right. It can be your best friend and it can be your worst enemy, and oftentimes it's both. See, when you have a positive attitude, when you have a can-do attitude, you will break through barriers you never thought you could. It's almost as if by changing the way you set your mind, you can change the direction your whole life can go. And this is fundamentally correct. Because if you have a bad attitude, if you just assume you're going to fail, you're not going to put the effort in. Or you're going to think you're putting the effort in and you're not. Your grind's going to suffer. And because of that, you're not going to do your best work. In tomorrow's Entropia video, I talk about a motto that I have borrowed from a friend. Let's see if I can remember that off the top of my head. Nil satis nisi optimum. Nothing but the best is good enough. If you don't have a positive attitude, you're not giving your best. And I'm not going to go into that quote too deeply because I go into that tomorrow for like half an hour. But the important thing is that you keep the positive attitude. Because if you have a positive attitude, if you have a can-do attitude, no matter how many times you run into difficulty, no matter how many times you fail at a task, or you run into obstacles, you're going to continue to put the effort forth. You're going to continue to put the grind out. You're going to continue to do the things necessary to break through those barriers. And so, if you go into things with a can-do attitude, you will succeed. If you do anything enough times, you will succeed at it. It just depends on the number of iterations you have to do. And if you learn from your mistakes, because the bad side of this is doing something over and over and expecting a different result is the very definition of insanity, right? So it's not that you need to keep doing something that doesn't work. You need to figure out what part of what you're doing doesn't work and correct for it. You know, it's like the way that aspiring artists come into their skill. A lot of people, they give up on becoming an artist because they're like, well, I don't have the skill to do this. I can't draw for beans. I can't sing. I can't play. I can't do whatever the art is. And then they say, how did you get so good? And then the artist, the good artist, will shove a pencil or a brush or an instrument into their hands and say, draw, paint, play. Like, but I'm not good at it. Play. Because it's that iterative practice that made them good. It's effort. It's grit. It's grind. Whatever you grind at, you will succeed at. You just have to have the attitude that you're going to make it. It can be your worst enemy too. Because we all fall into attitude traps. Things go wrong. We have a bad month. 2020 happens. And suddenly we get into this dark brain space. And it just closes everything off. And we want to give up. And that type of an attitude, that closing off, that pulling in, is a very seductive place to be. Because when you pull in, when you retreat, you don't expect to succeed, so failure doesn't hurt as much, or at least you don't think it hurts as much. When you retreat, it means that you don't have any expectation of the dopamine release that you get when you succeed. And when you starve yourself of that, it's like anything. If you don't have chocolate for a month, you're less tempted to buy chocolate because your brain forgets the the release it gets from the taste of chocolate. The same thing happens with succeeding. If you have that bad attitude, I'll never get anywhere, I just have to, this is my lot in life, you'll stop trying because your brain has forgotten what it's like to get a win. I think this is why Dave Ramsey uses the methodology he does to get people out of debt, because he focuses on the win. When you feel the win, it perpetuates itself. It drives that desire, that attitude to win again. And so you just have to figure out, where is it I can get a win? And I'm talking about in real life, because video games in particular are very good at this. It's what they're designed for. This is why a lot of new programs, new training programs, new success programs are gamifying life. And you can find an app in your App Store or Google Play Store that will gamify several aspects of your life. They've come up with like Hero's Journal and a couple other things. Because by gamifying your life, you're creating a situation where you can get a win. You know, your ultimate goals should be aspirational. They should be huge. Things that you never think you should be able to achieve, because they're going to drive you to do better and get further than you ever would have if you had just small goals. The gamification allows you those wins that will drive you to the goals. So I would encourage you, especially if you're a gamer, but even if you're not, find a way to gamify your life. Find a way to drive those wins and see where you go from there. Because your attitude is either your best friend or your worst enemy. And more often than not, it's both. This has been a McBain moment.